the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Khair al-Bashar, the best of mankind, Khalil Allah, the Khalil of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He sat by the grave and he started to cry. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He started to cry until the soil became wet. Then he turned and he said to his companions, أَعِدُّوا لِمِثْلِ هَذَا. Prepare yourself for this. Prepare yourself for this day. That day, ikhwan, when your blanket will be replaced with dust and earth. That day when your blanket, when you go home to sleep, there will be no more sleep for you in that bed. It will be dust and it will be earth. That day, ikhwan, when you leave the living of this world and you have a new abode. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ata janaza iddu li mithli hadha, prepare for this. Prepare for this day. And ikhwan, the scholars of Islam, the righteous people of Islam, that's why they were righteous. That's why they were upright. Because they recognized the reality of death. No one's saying, ikhwan, and don't let anyone misunderstand. Go out there and be broke and don't work abadan. This is the Prophet ﷺ. He said the upper hand is better than the lower hand, meaning the hand that works is better than the hand that begs. But at the same time, when you work, use that work to remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Use your wealth to raise you in degrees on the day of judgment. One of the scholars of the past, they said, ikhwan, ذكر الموت حال بيني وبين كثير من التجارة. Remembering death, it caused me to lose out on much business. Why? Because even though business is something that is good, as long as you don't go outside the boundaries of the book and the sunnah, thinking about death gets you into such a state that you'll even start abstaining from some things that might be permissible out of fear of falling into that which is haram. So ikhwan, as we advise ourselves firstly and foremostly, let's start thinking about death now and not when we leave here or when we go home and next week, because it might be too late. In the well-known hadith, and I'm sure every person sitting here today, inshallah ta'ala, has heard of it. كن في الدنيا كأنك غريب وعابر السبيل. Live in this world as if you are a stranger or a traveler. Meaning, don't live in this world as if you're going to stay here, because you're not. Don't live in this world as if it will last forever, because it will not. Don't live in this world as if you're going to take it with you, because you are not. Live in this world as a stranger. Take that which you need and keep on moving. Moving towards where, ikhwan? Moving towards where? Moving towards the hereafter. Moving towards the hereafter. A stranger doesn't stop because he's on a journey. And we're on a journey, ikhwan, and still we haven't reached our final abode. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَمَا جَعَلْنَا لِبَشَرٍ, and we have not given any man immortality. No man will live forever. And the first thing that we should start preparing for that time when we die, ikhwan, is the kalima, la ilaha illallah, kalimat al-ikhlas, the key to paradise. The key to paradise. La ilaha illallah, which the da'wah of the prophets. The prophets, they called the people to what? La ilaha illallah. Worship none but Allah. And stay away from all the false deities. Why? Because if you die with this key, inshallah ta'ala, you will enter paradise. The prophets, they wanted you to prepare for death. So that's the starting point. Start with that which will enter you into paradise. And inshallah, if you die upon it, you will not remain in the hellfire forever. And again, ikhwan, if we want to be ready for death when it comes to us, as the Prophet ﷺ said, Taraktu fikum shay'ain, I've left with you two things. If you hold on to them, you will never go astray after me. Meaning you will never be unhappy after me. You will be ready for death when it comes to you, and you will be prepared for it, and you will know how to prepare for it. What are those two things, ikhwan? The book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If you implement them in your lives, inshallah ta'ala, you will be ready for death. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows each and every one of us to die upon Islam. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows each and every one of us to die upon the sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He remove the love of this world from our hearts. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to do all things. Wa aqimis salat.